In Colombia, the debate on the healthcare reform moves forward as 88 legislators vote in favor of 12 more articles of the bill. The leaders of the European Union hold an emergency meeting to discuss the situation in Ukraine and the rift with the United States. And the Palestinian resistance movement claimed on Thursday that the U.S. President Donald Trump's abiding threats to the Palestinians are upholding Israel's decision on not complying with the ceasefire agreement. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Colombia, the debate on the healthcare reform moves forward. Close to midnight on Wednesday, 88 legislators voted in favor of 12 more articles of the bill. 21 dissenting votes were not enough for the extreme right to prevent the approval of key articles 14 to 20, which are related to the primary healthcare accounts and the strengthening of the public hospital network. The debate, which lasted more than 7 hours, was preceded by an attempt to postpone it, with the progressive parliamentarians prevented. 8 more articles remain to be debated starting Thursday at 8 a.m. local time. Representative Marta Alfonso highlighted the importance of the achievements obtained.
Being almost 12 o'clock at night, the session is adjourned, in which we finally made progress in the approval and discussion of the health reform. So far, 55 articles of 62 have been approved. Now we have left a package of new articles endorsed and not endorsed that we will have to discuss. But well, this is finally unlocked.
Venezuelans spread out all over the country to pay tribute to Supreme Leader Commander Hugo Rafael Chávez Frías on the 12th anniversary of his physical departure amidst nostalgia and commitment. Leonardo Urrieta tells us more.
Desde tempranas horas de la mañana, la ciudad de Caracas.
Since early in the morning, the city of Caracas, in the populous parish of 23 de Enero, witnessed how the Chavista people visited the mountain barracks, emblematic site of the capital, where the remains of Commander Chávez, who governed Venezuela along with the people between 1999 and 2013, rest. A tribute called In Your Hands Is Your Flame was held at the place, a meeting in which honor was paid to the civic-military union promoted by Commander Chávez, and which is the basis of the fight against the actions of the extreme right, the defense of the sovereignty and dignity of the Venezuelan people.
Un hombre que entregó la vida para la justicia social.
He was a man who gave his life for social justice, inclusion, love, the rescue of our own idiosyncrasy, and above all that the Constitution be respected with the full independence of our Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
La independencia plena de nuestra República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
Remembering Chavez for me is something very nice. Every time I remember him, I cry, because for us he is the best thing that has happened to Venezuela, for our children, for our grandchildren. This is not for us, this is for our grandchildren.
Chavez, besides being a political leader, touched the heart of the Venezuelan people with the forenow of February 4th, 1992. The genuine love between the people and Commander Hugo Chavez grew until it became invincible.
Chavez awakened this revolutionary people, this Bolivarian people. Thanks to him, the boot of the United States will never again tread on us, because we learned, from our eternal commander, many things, to survive with blockade, without blockade, with economic war or without economic war, we are surviving, moving forward and taking our country forward.
It is an honor to have him in our office, to have him in our homes, because he fought so hard for us and gave his life for the Venezuelan people.
Hugo Chávez fue el pionero en América Latina y el Caribe en levantar.
Hugo Chavez was the pioneer in Latin America and the Caribbean in raising the flags in the defense of women, whose protagonism made women of the world and the continent feel visible and included in the project for the development of programs that benefit the population.
Porque al declarar
Because by declaring state policy, Bolivarian feminist socialism, what did it do?
Bolivariano y feminista que hizo reconocer al
To recognize the human race, that we are the women and men of the world.
mujeres y los hombres del mundo.
Los venezolanos tienen muy
Venezuelans are very aware of the importance that Commander Hugo Rafael Chavez Frias gave shape to an international geopolitics, vital for the creation of integration mechanisms within the framework of the South-South agenda. In addition to deepening Latin American unity with instances such as Community of Latin American and Caribbean States and ALBA TCP.
But we must also remember him as a man who always wanted the union of all the peoples of the Americas to build and create a great power.
Chavez continues to be a key symbol for the struggles of the peoples of the world. His geostrategic vision in favor of safeguarding humanity and love of neighbor is recognized by national and international popular movements and organizations.
This people
will never forget the president who gave back the smile and dignity to Venezuelans.
En la Cámara de Jesús Romero y Carlos Quintero, Leonardo Urrieta, Telesur, Caracas, Venezuela.
The government of Panama assures that there is no toll adjustment for any vessel arriving from the United States. Canal authorities on Wednesday denied statements by White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt, claiming that they had eliminated tariffs on U.S. ships. The spokeswoman's statements arose in response to a journalist's question regarding President Trump's remarks a day earlier in Congress, where he reiterated that the U.S. will take over the administration of the canal. The Panamanian executive also denied these statements. In Ecuador, the death toll of the torrential rains impacting the country has risen to 16 as authorities report at least 77,000 residents affected. The National Secretariat of Risk Management briefed that floods, landslides and mudslides led to the fatalities, also leaving 91 people injured. Furthermore, authorities estimated that the weather event caused structural damage in at least 20,400 houses. They further reported losses in agriculture, namely 1,000 hectares of harvest and about 45,000 dead farm animals. In view of the forecast of non-stop rainfall until March 7th, the risk management entity has issued an emergency red alert for 6 of the 24 provinces. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back From the South. After meeting in the United Kingdom, the leaders of the European Union held an emergency meeting to discuss the situation in Ukraine and the rift with the United States. The heads of the bloc and the president of Ukraine are meeting again in Brussels to secure their military defenses and to check that Kyiv is properly protected. Less than 48 hours ago, the United States halted all codes and intelligence exchanges and afterwards deactivated the guidance systems for the HIMARS rocket launchers. In view of this situation, the Ukrainian head of state has asked Washington for a new opportunity to talk about peace. The Kremlin issued a statement rejecting Emmanuel Macron's claims that Russia was a threat to be counteracted, even alluding to Europe's nuclear rearmament. On Wednesday, the French president encouraged nations to a major European rearmament and noted that France is ready to harness its nuclear deterrent to safeguard Europe in the face of supposed threats from Russia. In this regard, the Russian spokesperson Dmitry Peskov called Macron's remarks highly confrontational and stressed this stance is aimed at keeping up with war, even willing to use its nuclear weapons to hold this regional leadership. Likewise, Peskov underscored that Macron failed to acknowledge the fact that Russia has been under threat NATO as the bloc continues to approach its borders. In this context, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov responded on Thursday to the French president's remarks on the use of nuclear weapons in Europe, calling them a threat to Russia.
This is a threat to Russia. If Macron considers us a threat, calls a meeting of the chiefs of general staff of European countries and Britain, says that it is necessary to use nuclear weapons, prepare to use nuclear weapons against Russia, this, of course, is...
On Thursday, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, announced the appointment of Alexander Darshiev as the country's new ambassador to the United States. The diplomat designate has a distinguished career, having served as a consular at the Russian embassy in the U.S. for 5 years and as ambassador to Canada from 2014 to 2021. The appointment ends several months without a head of the Russian diplomatic mission in Washington after previous ambassador Anatoly Antonov returned to the Russian nation in October 2024. The U.S. government gave the go-ahead for the new diplomat on February 27th during consultations with the Moscow delegation in Turkey. The Palestinian resistance movement claimed on Thursday that U.S. President Trump's abiding threats to the Palestinians are upholding Israel's decision on not complying with a ceasefire deal. A senior Palestinian authority confirmed having held a meeting with a special envoy of the White House. The leader further asserted the talks left a positive impression, although Washington has just focused on releasing Israeli hostages, namely those with U.S. citizenship. In this context, White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt confirmed that the Trump administration engaged in direct talks with Hamas, saying the discussions align with U.S. interests. The encounter, facilitated by Qatari intermediaries, has been the first ever since 1997 and breaks the U.S. rule of not engaging in direct talks with those that Washington labeled as terrorist groups, as is the case of Hamas. The United Nations lately warned of impending food shortage in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations alerted that current food stocks will just supply less than 2-week operations of bakeries and kitchens, posing at risk the food security of thousands of people. The entity noted that it may be necessary to reduce the size of rations to cover the needs of more people and to fuel available to maintain bakeries and food transport. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Health Ministry's latest briefing accounted Israeli offensive against Gaza Strip for over 48,440 deaths and 111,845 injured. Children's Fund and the United Nations World Food Programme warned about the crisis facing the population of Gaza after Israel's decision to prevent humanitarian aid from entering the territory. In a statement, UNICEF said that if medical supplies are not delivered to the territory, routine vaccinations will stop, which will have a severe impact on children. Violence unleashed during operations ordered by Syria's de facto government has left 13 people dead so far in the southwest of the country. In this regard, it was reported that forces loyal to the de facto president Mohammed al-Julani, a former member of al-Qaeda, now calling himself Ahmed al-Sharra, carried out brutal raids in the Daraa governorate. This way, they seized the rural town of al-Sanamain with the aim of capturing supporters of former President Bashar al-Assad. The action led to heavy fighting between rebel groups and al-Julani forces that, according to a preliminary report of the de facto authorities, killed 8 members of their troops, 1 civilian and 4 rebels, and left several wounded, among them women and children. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Thursday the national political advisors attending the joint group meeting at the 14th National Committee of the People's Political Consultative Conference. The head of state, who is also the Secretary General of the Communist Party and chairman of the Central Military Commission, took part in the discussion of the political sectors of the Chinese Democratic League, the Chinese Association for the Promotion of Democracy, and the education sector. This is the highest political advisory body in the country. The simultaneous meeting is known as two sessions because it brings together currently the plenary sessions of the Political Consultative Conference of the Chinese People and the National People's Assembly of China. On Thursday in South Korea, a fighter jet accidentally dropped 8 bombs on a civilian area during training, reportedly injuring 7 people. In a communique, the Air Force explained that the Mk-82 bombs dropped abnormally by the KF-16 fighter fell outside a firing range, causing unspecified damage to civilians. Furthermore, it was clarified in the statement that a committee will be established to investigate the causes of this terrible accident, as well as to examine the extent of the damage caused. The Air Force apologized for the damage caused and wished the injured a successful recovery, to whom compensations and other necessary measures will be actively taken. In other news, the Kenyan Peasants League is once again trying to prevent the introduction of genetically modified food and seeds into Kenya through the court system. Oscar Epelda with the details.
They challenged the sudden lifting of the ban on genetically modified food when William Ruto became president of Kenya in 2022. 2 years later, they were still waiting for the trial to begin. After the High Court ordered the interim suspension of the lifting of the ban, the government's lawyers tried to change jurisdiction. If they eventually succeeded in winning the case, it was when the judge was changed and replaced by another judge.
If South Africa that has been using it, cancelled it, declared it illegal in that country, why should we Kenyans allow?
The case was closed and the injunction was lifted in November 2024 on the day of this recording.
The state definitely has a lot of machinery behind it. We are up against a huge force, so it will take the efforts of the masses not to allow their health and their lives to be put at peril.
The Peasants' League appeal highlighted the procedural flaws of the presidential cabinet's decision, the lack of public participation, and of the prior scientific reports required by law. Furthermore, it appealed to the principle of precaution in consideration of the risk to health and life if they lose their agricultural and farming techniques and the original seeds that are the basis of what they eat and what they are.
When we harvest, again, you do sorting and you select the ones that you feel best, that you can again keep for the next season.
If the Court of Appeal now refuses to suspend the introduction of transgenics as a precautionary measure, it could mean the beginning of the end of the systems that farmers are putting in place to protect and promote agroecology.
The data globally says that the world today is producing enough food to feed 14 billion people.
Kenyan Peasants' League rejects arguments about the need for genetically modified seeds as a weapon to fight hunger.
The issue of hunger is not lack of food, it's poverty. People cannot buy the food. So if I don't have money to buy food, to buy indigenous maize now, and you bring GMOs and I still don't have money, how will I buy it?
One of the systems they are creating is the food co-op, where producers and consumers ensure the production and distribution of healthy food. This undeveloped urban area of Nairobi had a reputation for heroin addiction and crime, but they have joined the food co-op, and thanks to a safe market, they now produce chemical-free food and are growing. They produce care for the environment and expand a model that seeks social justice first.
Esta oficina en donde se coordina la Food Coop de
This office from where the Kanyami Food Coop is coordinated has just been demolished after this recording last December. But the system devised is working computerized. Anyone living in the urban and rural farming communes can place their weekly order and share shares. The numbers are still small, but it has the potential to leave the people in charge of deciding what they want to eat and be, even if the government does not take any notice.
Son dos modelos confrontados e incompatibles.
These are two confronted and incompatible models. Transgenic seeds accompanied by other legislations that promote mechanized agriculture, cornering the rights of peasants versus agroecology, adapted to the climate crisis, in theory able to feed everyone by cooling the planet.
Desde Kenia, Oscar Repelde para TeleSUR.
In Brazil, the Bay of Flor Samba School won on Wednesday the Rio de Janeiro Carnival competition. The city that hosts the most famous open-air carnival in the world crowned the ensemble as champion after a showcase that paid tribute to the late carnival director Laila, who passed in 2021 after a lifetime of contributions to the festivity. Like this, Beija Flor became the third biggest winner in Rio Carnival's history with 15 titles. For the 2025 competition, the second place went to the Grande Rio School, while the third prize was awarded to the Imperatriz Leopoldinense ensemble. The parade was held as is tradition at Rio's Marques de Sapucaí Sambadrome in front of 70,000 people and millions of viewers from all over the world. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.